I'm Carla here for Clean Teeth Magazine. I am joined by
Moy Cohen.
welcome Moy. Thank you for speaking with us.
Oh, thank you for having me. Yeah, it's I'm excited for this conversation.
Okay, so first things first, give us your pitch. You do alt pop. You have been singing for a while now. You're kind of on this big come up. You've been featured everywhere and a half recently. So, give us
Mm.
your spiel. Tell us about yourself.
I don't know. I'm just someone who enjoys writing songs, and it's what I want to do with my life. I write. I'd say pretty chilled songs with a big focus on like the lyrics and the story that I'm telling, and yeah, it's going well. I'm just enjoying the process of releasing this EP, which I've been working on for the last 7, 8 years. And finally, I'm releasing it, and yeah, it's I'm excited.
It must be awesome to kind of see a project that's been running on for so long come to fruition.
Yeah, it is. It is, and I can't actually believe that it's happening because I've been waiting to release these songs for so long, and with that comes a lot of frustration. Right, I'm like, God, when am I ever going to release them?
What's held you
So
back from releasing them sooner? Were you just trying to get everything perfect and going? Were you running into red tape in areas or
yeah, it was just complicated for so many different reasons. But like, firstly, when it took around 5 years to record them because I was like 17 when I was writing them, so my voice was changing, and I'd
right?
recorded Mexico, go back for like half a year to England for school, go back to Mexico, my voice would have completely changed. So um, yeah, and then also just like I think um, initially I was kind of looking for perfection and stuff like that, and wanting to really fine tune things, and then I think as I've matured and grown older, I've kind of learned when to just stop that tweaking process and when to just these songs just need to be out there, and yeah, I can't wait to have them in the world.
Well, I'm glad that they've managed to make their way so far.
Yeah.
I'm excited for what's to come. And I
Mhm.
think this is a perfect segue to now ask Mexico, England. Tell us about
Yeah.
that because you have a very interesting background that actually has played into the inspiration of your songs, right?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, no one ever believes me when I tell them I'm Mexican. Like, I'm working in a bar at the moment, and the amount of people who come up who are from like Latin America, and they're just speaking in Spanish and they can't understand that well, and I can understand everything that they're saying, and they just don't suspect it. So yeah, one, no one really believes me, and then I tell them, and they're like, "What? Nah, you're having me on." But yeah, my dad and his side of the family are Mexican. My mum is English, and her side of the family too. And yeah, I was born in Mexico, lived there till I was like 7, I think. Every time someone asks me, I tell them 6, 7, or 8. I choose one of
Something.
those, just something like that. Um, yeah, and then I moved to England, and um, kind of would do school and stuff, live with my mum in England, and then I'd go in the holidays to Mexico. So yeah, I've kind of grown up between the two. I think after I was around 7, I spent a lot of time in England. Um, and then after uni, I moved back to Mexico for a couple of years to live, which was which was great. I really wanted to like reconnect with my Mexican roots, which I feel like I did.
That's awesome. I'm glad that you got to seem it seems like you got to experience both things and especially
Yeah.
it's different I think to get to do it in your adult life, right? Like in your waking memory, not just like in oh, that's where I'm from.
Exactly, because what I was like, I was very young when I was living in Mexico as a kid, so I had all of these very faint, vague memories of what life was like there. Um, I remember actually I went back at one point to my old playground at school. I think I was visiting with one of my brother was going there or something like that, and I was, when you go back to a place that you've like were as a kid, and then you're like, it's so small in real life, and I thought
Yeah,
it was like this massive playground. Yeah,
right.
funny how that happens.
It's
But
crazy.
yeah,
I have to admit, I was very excited to get to do this interview because your story reminds me of mine. As I showed you earlier, my little Mexican flag in the
yeah,
background. I also come from a Mexican background. My family's from Mexico City. I was there till I was 5 or 6 is my this or that type
okay,
answer, somewhere in that range. And I've been in the US ever since, right? And so I was like, oh, I'm such a fish out of water because I sound like I'm from North Carolina, but I'm actually Mexican and no one ever believes me. And, whenever
yeah,
I'm working in any job and someone's talking and, I'll laugh at their joke because I'm just like overhearing their conversation and I just see everyone turn around like, you understood that? And I'm like, I gave away my secret identity.
yeah. I never know how to like enter a conversation in Spanish when people don't assume that I speak Spanish. I always, do I just start speaking Spanish to them, or
Right.
do I go like, "Oh, where are you from?" And then they tell me that, and I was like, they're like, "I'm from Mexico." I was like, "No way, me too." And it just sounds like I'm taking the piss.
Right. It's just
Uh,
like, ah, you're
so I had
just cracking jokes.
to, yeah, it's yeah, I don't know. It's funny, but that's cool that we have very kind of similar stories in that sense.
Yeah, I think it's cool and it's also humanizing, I guess, because it's not every day that you hear a story that sounds like your own, right? Like, there's
Mhm.
different degrees and places where you find like representation in different fields. But I think this is the first time that I've personally felt like I connect to an artist's story as well as their music. And I feel like
Yeah,
you have it a little bit more intensely as well because you've gotten to
yeah.
travel back and forth, but I feel like it'd be a little bit more rare in England and now in Australia.
Yeah, you say that, but actually, I found where I'm living in Australia, there's actually a really big Latin American
Is that
community,
so?
and like I can get habanero salsa in
So
the
good.
supermarket. So like little home comforts of that. I mean, it's still very, very far away from Mexico, but I actually
Right.
think it has better food-wise anyway, like just from groceries, it has some better options here than in England even. Yeah.
Okay, interesting.
It's so far away, but
Do you find that you seek out that connection to your culture even in situations like that? Because, you mentioned that you wanted to reconnect, so you did move back for a while. Do you still find yourself doing that, or does it happen by chance and you'll take it where it comes from?
I'll kind of, yeah, I'll just take it. I won't actively seek it. I'll take it where it comes from, and then if I see a bottle of Valentina in the supermarket, I'll buy it and rinse it for the next couple of weeks.
Right.
Like, I don't know. I will, yeah, I'm not like, I also want to like, I love meeting people from Mexico and like speaking with them in Spanish, and yeah,
Yeah, it's a little treat when you get to actually have that
exactly.
level to relate to somebody on.
I work with lots of people I work with are from Mexico, and it's great. We have a little crew. Yeah.
That's awesome. So I did listen to your the garden session of your track Childhood Photographs, which was so
Mhm.
beautiful and so nice and so peaceful. But I was also listening to it lyrically, and so then I obviously went down the rabbit hole and prep for this talk, but also because I just wanted to know like where you were coming from. And I think that this has kind of become a like prevalent underlying theme in your work. So, would you say that that's a deliberate source of inspiration for your music and for what you do now? How does your background manifest in both who you are as a person and who you are professionally as a creative?
I think it's yeah, it's like not deliberate inspiration, but I think like growing up between the two, as great as it was, having that rich culture and those two sides of life, it was also, I think, growing up quite challenging because I didn't really know where home was. Like I didn't know. I felt kind of pulled between two different sides of the world,
Yeah,
and
literally.
literally, yeah, and yeah, I think it caused me a a lot of confusion and anguish as a teenager. Also because the circumstances in which I left Mexico were not necessarily the best. Like I didn't leave, I left because my parents got divorced, which is another, I think, another theme in this EP is kind of like tackling those feelings. So yeah, I mean, it has all of that life experience. I've kind of channeled it into these songs. And initially, I started writing them to kind of help myself deal with those emotions as like a form of self therapy
Yeah, it's
and
cathartic.
yeah, very, very cathartic. And even more cathartic now that I'm finally releasing them because I feel like even though I'd put them into these songs, I still hadn't just like had that. I know it's a release, as in I'm releasing songs, but it's also like a cathartic release of
Yeah,
this
it's like an
energy that
emotional
I've been
release.
holding. Yeah. And I remember when I released my first song, Ocean, um, I really felt I did feel like overwhelmed with that feeling of release, even though that one's not so much about like growing up in Mexico and like that displacement feeling. Um, Definitely childhood photographs is, and yeah, it was. It's a very special song.
Yeah, of course. And Ocean, I believe, is the one that was featured on the CW's Walker, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, which is
which
awesome.
was
Congratulations on that. That's kind of crazy, right? Like, it's a big
crazy.
accomplishment.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. Like I've always dreamed of hearing my songs on a TV show, and then yeah, it was
And
surreal.
Walker's a good one for it. Like, it matches. I went back to look for it because I did watch Walker for a while because I was in love with Jared Padalecki for a minute, but that's a different
Yeah,
side story. I did go back to look for it, and the way that they used it was so fitting. And it's not at all what you'd expect. I mean,
yeah,
Walker, you think cowboys, you think the desert, and then Oceans comes in, and it's like such a cool contrast. And so it kind of gives it a new meaning. And
mhm.
so even though the songs have like your personal meaning to you and what inspired you to write it, it's really cool to see that there's connections other people can draw and find their own way to tie into it, even if it's a
Yeah,
crazy
exactly.
situation like Walker.
Exactly, and it's so cool. I was watching it, and it was just like the last song before the credits, and then it was like it was really cool to watch. But yeah, like you said, it's that's I think one of my favorite things. My favorite when I think about writing songs and sharing these like stories, and they're kind of like intimate parts of myself. I I really like the idea that people will just form their own meanings to the songs, then they don't have to necessarily take my narrative. I only have like I'm only giving them the songs and then they can take them to mean what they want and they can help them in whatever way.
Yeah, which is super super cool, and it's definitely, I think, something that contributes to the continued success that you're finding right now. Like, you're doing this in a great time and in a great way. So I'm very excited to see what comes next because it looks like a lot is coming up next for you.
Hopefully, a lot of music. I've got a lot of songs that I need to release as well. Like I've been writing nonstop while I've been recording this thing. So yeah,
Right.
I've got plenty more to come, and I'll be playing live, starting here in Sydney, and then hopefully I'll go back to Mexico, play some shows back in England, and then I don't know. I'm taking it as it goes. I think in the past I've tried to put a lot of pressure on me. I think on myself, and yeah, I am just enjoying the process of finally releasing these songs.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way to do it, right? Day by day, one step at a time.
Mhm.
So, does this mean then in some not too distant future, hopefully, that you'd come stateside and, hit us with a little bit of a
Yeah, I would
worldwide
love
tour?
to. I would love to, definitely. Yeah, I'd love to visit America. My brother actually lived there for a while, so um,
Not too
I'll go
far-fetched
with him.
then.
Not too far fetched, and he can show me around, and then yeah, I'd love to go and play some shows in America. I'll do like a. I kind of like the idea of doing like a tour. Um, First, starting off just here in Sydney, and then we'll see where I can take it because I think my music kind of it's so chilled, and I can do these acoustic sets. I feel like they really suit the vibe of like a morning coffee at a cafe, and I can just
Oh,
go to. I could just do like a cafe tour or something like
That
that.
would actually be
So I need to,
so cool. Man, more artists should
yeah.
do that, you know? The clubs and the venues and the stadiums, the arenas, that's all good and well, but, like, a nice little tea shop, coffee shop moment would be
Yeah,
awesome.
exactly. I just wanna find some really cool cafes all over the world and, um,
You
and
might be
just
a trailblazer for that. That would be
and
awesome.
play these really intimate shows, with coffee instead of alcohol,
Oh,
because then
man.
people can, yeah, it'll be good.
That'll be good,
Although
and
I'd have to do them early enough because
I
I
was
don't wanna
gonna say
force
these are
people
gonna be
to
9 AM shows, huh?
yeah, exactly. Everyone's gonna be yawning in the audience.
But they'll be vibing, and that's what matters.
Exactly, exactly. They'll be enjoying their coffee and listening to some good music, so
So, okay, aside from a nationwide or, more rather, an international cafe tour, uh, what are some other goals that you have? Because, you know, for someone who's already lived so much life, you know, what is it something that's kind of like, I guess maybe a bucket list, right? Like, not something like you said, not something that you're putting on yourself, like, I need to accomplish this, but something that you look at and you're more so like, it would be kind of cool if I got to do this someday.
I really wanna play at Glastonbury Festival because I went in 2019 and I thought it was just the coolest place on the planet.
Oh, yeah.
Um, yeah, I wanna play tons of music festivals. I just want to just keep making music and, collaborate with more artists and, um, just really make it my entire life, you know?
Oh, yeah.
And,
What is your dream collaboration?
my dream collaboration, I'd love to, like I feel like my inner child would love to collaborate with, like, Chris Martin from
Oh,
Coldplay just
hell
because I
yeah.
grew up listening to him, like, in the cars, what my dad always put on. Um, I also really love Nick Mulvey, his music. I think he's really cool, really authentic. Um, James Blake. I'd love to I just
Oh, yeah.
if anyone wants to collaborate with me, I will collaborate with them,
Anyone under the
please.
sun, but
Yeah.
as long as they're okay with a 9 AM coffee shop gig.
Exactly, exactly, as long as they're a morning person.
Right. So, is the music that you listen to also the music that inspires your sound, or do you draw inspiration from some other artists as well?
Yeah, I mean, I think I listen to lots of different types of music. Now I'm in Australia, I listen to a lot more, like, indie surf
Mhm.
rock because that's
That's what
what
there
is
is.
everywhere. Yeah, yeah, but I think it definitely you can hear in the influences in some of the songs, and you can see. I think I have my like own style, but then I think what I'm listening to at the time will kind of leach in some ways and inspire some aspects of the music. So like, I think for Ocean, I think it's clear if you listen to it, it's clear that there's some of that like Chris Martin, Coldplay influence.
Mhm.
And then I think Pick Up the Pieces is more has more like James Blake influence and stuff like
Yeah.
that. So I think, you know, like it's all under the umbrella of like my specific sound,
Mhm.
but it definitely, you know, I get these ideas from what I'm listening to at the time and I think, yeah, it's cool.
What would you say is then the most distant from your sound that still inspires you? Because when I was listening to your stuff, it was also reminding me kind of like an earlier Kaleo or even Hozier or a
Mm.
Spanish indie artist. I think she might be a Mexican actually, named Julieta Venega. And so I was listening to it and I was like, okay, I could see connections like within the genre. And so then it got me thinking like, is there anything that's, you know, kind of out of left field that still works its way into what you do?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, because I do listen to I listen to absolutely everything from like Bad Bunny to to classical music. So like
Right.
I don't maybe that stuff finds its way in. I think maybe with the stuff I'm writing more recently, because I write in quite a few different genres and I have some more like poppy upbeat stuff that I write as well, which I'm sure will be out hopefully not in 7 years' time, hopefully a lot
Fingers
sooner.
crossed.
But definitely I think all of these influences um kind of yeah. I I think definitely in some way they probably do affect me, even if it's just like a beat that I choose for a certain part of the song.
Right.
Um, but yeah, I don't know.
I'm gonna keep an ear out just to see if that ever works its way in. I'm gonna be listening to
It's gonna
something and
hear
be
out
like,
on
"Oh,
my
he was
ringtone
listening to
album.
reggaeton whenever this happened."
Yeah.
Do you plan on ever writing in Spanish?
Yeah, I do. I do. I want to, and I'm working on it. Um, I'm fluent in Spanish, but it doesn't come as naturally to me as English. And I
Hmm.
think actually when I was living back out in Mexico after uni, I did notice that my Spanish got to a point where I think I can write. And it's funny, it starts like when I first started writing songs in English or like doing poetry, it kind of starts with just like you kind of play around with words in your head and you find like puns and interesting like wordplay.
Yeah.
And I started once I noticed that I was starting doing that in Spanish, I thought, okay, it's time. So I've got like I think I've got like two different songs that both have like one verse each that I've written in Spanish now. So
So you're
yeah,
on the right track for it.
I'm on the right track. I'll add them. Yeah,
That's
maybe I
really
just need to
cool.
move back to Mexico for a bit and study.
A little like year-long writing trip just to really lock in.
Exactly. I'll treat myself to a year in Mexico under the like
Under the
excuse
guise
of
of having to write.
yeah, I mean, I was traveling while I was releasing childhood photographs. I was in Indonesia in Lombok, and I've never enjoyed releasing a song more because I was just like, I didn't have time to overthink anything.
Yeah, it just had to
I
happen.
was, it just had to happen. The song was coming out on this day. I had to promote it however I could, but I knew that there was a limit to how much I could be on social media and stuff like that. And
Right.
yeah, but
Kind
I
of
think
gotta
that
keep
was a
yourself
much
in
more
check.
it was a much more natural way of promoting because I'm still I think the bit I struggle with the most is the whole I'm trying to find ways to make social media come more naturally to me and
I think what's really cool is that like even through this conversation and through your songs being so honest and your aesthetic is very uh it's very like natural, right? And I think that with that even your social media presence kind of comes along with that and people will be able to
mhm,
connect to everything being so genuine and authentic.
I hope so.
Well, here's hoping.
Yeah, yeah.
So, speaking of, I guess, your aesthetic, that's also another question that I wanted to ask because the two songs that we've talked about being Ocean and then the garden session for childhood photographs, right? Is
Mhm.
nature a big visual influence and how much does a visual aesthetic play into your creative process, especially when doing, music videos or
I've always loved the ocean and I always that's one of the things I love the most about living here in Sydney is like I can go down and look at the horizon and I find it very calming. And I always have kind of had a love for nature. I grew up sometime with my grandparents who are big bird watchers and always would go on lovely walks in the countryside in England.
oh,
Um, and then I finished the EP actually in Tepoztlan in Mexico,
hmm,
which if you've been there, I'm sure you'll know has the most amazing mountain view ever.
stunning.
And I've written some amazing songs there. I guess maybe it doesn't inspire songs, but having a good view definitely helps when you're writing a song. And then in the garden session of childhood photographs, I think my favorite part of it is the bird song in the background.
Yeah.
All the birds just started singing along. It was crazy. I
The
did one
birds were
take.
paid actors.
They were paid, honestly. We couldn't believe it. Because it was such a simple video. I just called my mate who has a camera. I was like, "Oh, do you want to come do this video?" And we sat down. I used my phone to record the audio because the microphone we didn't have the right cable to connect the microphone, and and then we just recorded it, and it was yeah. I think it was a bit of magic.
Dude, it truly was absolutely beautiful. I was taken aback because I was like, "Oh, this has to be just like, maybe a bird track to make it seem more natural." And then like as you're watching, you're like, "Oh no, those are real. That's actually
Yeah,
happening."
yeah. I remember afterwards. I was like. I've got to get some shots of the actual birds, otherwise no one's going to believe it.
Yeah.
So I like camped out in the garden like a wildlife
Right.
photographer, and just waiting for these birds to come.
Of course.
Yeah, to get
That's
some
crazy.
photos
It
of them.
seems like a lot of your of your adult career has been, oh, no one's ever gonna believe this.
Yeah,
That's got to
it's,
work its way into something someday.
for sure. I'll write a song about it.
Well, as our time here with Clean Teeth draws to a close, I want to thank you again so much for speaking to us. And I have one final question for you that we always ask all of our guests, because we are Clean Teeth
Mm.
Magazine and we do have to stay true to our brand. If you were to invent your own personal, one of a kind, custom toothpaste flavor, what would it be and why?
I don't know because for me, I just don't like the idea of anything other than mint for brushing my teeth. Maybe I I feel like it would be weird to try like a Jamoy toothpaste or
That would
something
be
like that.
actually crazy.
That'd be
Now, would this
crazy.
be
And
actually chamoy flavored or would it be minty chamoy?
well, I think that minty chamoy would just be a bit too weird. So it would have to be one or the other.
I feel like there's a place in
Um,
which spicy and minty kind of
I mean,
coexist, though.
let's do it. Minty chamoy. Yeah, let's
This is
do
the collaboration we didn't know we needed because your name is
it. Yeah,
Moy, so you could literally have
no
this be a
one's
collab.
no one's gonna believe it. No one's gonna believe it when it comes out.
All right, so we have a bunch of stuff to keep an eye out in the future, new music, hopefully that
Yeah.
international cafe tour, and now a Chamoy collab. So
Where I
Chamoy,
will
if
be
you're
selling my
watching,
minty chamoy toothpaste.
that's actually the only merch item at the table is just minty Chamoy.
Yeah. Chamoy was actually one of my nicknames as a kid growing
Really?
up. Well, Moy Chamoy.
Right.
Yeah,
It's the
so
perfect combination.
it's a perfect combination.
All right. Well, thank you again so much for speaking with us. Is there anything else that you would like to mention, shout out, plug? Of course, tell us where we can find you, and what comes next for you.
Yeah, I'm Moy Cohen Music on all social media. And yeah, my EP Overgrown is out this Friday. Yeah, this Friday, and I'm not sure by the time people are listening if it'll probably already be out. So go find it on Spotify or Apple Music or wherever you listen to music. And yeah, I'm really excited to share it.
All right. Awesome. Thank you. Y'all heard him. Y'all know where to find him. Thank y'all so much for tuning in to Clean Teeth Magazine, and we will catch y'all in the next one.